Ladies and gentlemen,
Not
आज
coming.
के कार्यक्रम में सभी उपस्थित साथी, we now move towards the panel discussion. आज का जो हमारा पहला panel discussion है, that is on a very important topic, that is silver jewelry and silverware, where India, no doubt, is an undisputed leader. Now, going ahead with the session, I would request Mr. Vatsa to moderate the panel.
Thank you, Amna.
Over to you,
Hope-
Mr. Vaswara.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists and speakers and all the participants who have joined here. This has been an excellent session so far. I hope to do justice in the next two panels discussion as well. We have a very impressive panel which would discuss about silver jewelry and silverware. We have 7 panelists. Mr. Rajiv Arora, President, Federation of Rajasthan Exporters and founder Amrapali Jewels. Mr. Rahul Mehta, Managing Director, Silver Emporium. Ms. Gloria Macaroni, Director, Brand Development, Silver Promotion Services, The Silver Institute. Mr. Michael Berlin, Director, Silver Promotion Services, The Silver Institute. Ms. Jenny Chaudhary, Entrepreneur, Chaukahar, and Ms. Shimul Vyas, Senior Faculty, National Institute of Design. Mr. Dushyant Agarwal, Partner, Cashflow. Ms. Shimul will join us shortly as she is having some challenges. We will start the session with Mr. Rajiv Arora, President, Federation of Rajasthan Exporters Foundation and founder, Amrapali Jewels. Sir, thank you so much for joining the webinar. My first question to you would be, silver jewelry exports from India has touched 1.7 billion US dollar in financial year 2019-20. What, in your opinion, is the potential of this sector? What uniqueness does Rajasthan bring to the sector? And in your opinion, how to grow silver jewelry sector? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shivasa. Very interesting and nice webinar. And as you rightly said, the silver jewelry sector is one of the biggest contributor to the export sector in jewelry industry. And as we all know, that silver is a precious metal and is very affordable, durable, and when crafted with precision, it can achieve the fineness of gold. And Rajasthan, especially Jaipur, is the house of silversmiths and goldsmiths. You have recently heard the Chief Minister also said that from Jaipur, we do almost 50% of the total exports of silver jewelry in India. So Jaipur has become a big hub for manufacturing silver and exporting silver jewelry around the world. The reason being that we have artisans with generations who are working in jewelry sector for a long time, and also their skills are unmatched. We also cut precious, semi-precious stones in Jaipur, which are used in silver jewelry. So it is automatically become a huge center. When I started exporting, say almost 35 years back, we used to export in few thousand and few lakhs of rupees. And now, in last 30, 35 years, I think every factory has more than 200-300 silversmiths, and there are hundreds of factories in, especially in Atomic Zone and Sitapura industrial area, and also other places in Jaipur. So thousands of workers, laborers, skilled and unskilled, they are also getting employment. So I think it is, as the gold prices are increasing a lot, silver is the best alternative, and I see a big jump in silver jewelry exports in coming years. Yeah, thank you.
Which is equally important, compulsory hallmarking of silver jewelry and silverware. What is your thought on that?
See, hallmarking is always a very good step when we see, because I also collect old silver jewelry articles, and whatever you collect from European manufacturers, you always get a hallmark. So you come to know this piece was made in a particular year, in a particular factory, in particular village or town or city. So that is a very important to know also about the provenance of a piece. But in India, unfortunately, a lot of jewelry manufacturing is in unorganized sector, and especially in rural areas, we have silversmiths who are small manufacturers. They make jewelry for local consumption. So how to bring them in a hallmarking system? This will be a great challenge. I believe that all the important manufacturers should hallmark their pieces. Hallmarking should also be compulsory, but we also come out with a solution that how with this rural manufacturing or unorganized sector where two, three, four, five people are working in a small factory in a village or a town, how that will be hallmark. And also for old pieces, I will not recommend to do hallmarking because they can damage a piece. But definitely for the new pieces, all the pieces which I export are marked 92.5% silver, and also they are again hallmarked in particular country, whether it's France or Germany or Spain or UK. So there should be a international standard of hallmarking in India also. So once they are hallmarked in India, they don't need to be stamped again in Europe or other countries. I think it is a good step. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. That means I hear loud and clear that hallmarking is needed. The only challenge is how to integrate small artisans. We
Exactly.
have a lot of machinery manufacturers here, technology suppliers. I think they will help us find a way along with the industry stakeholders. I have one more question for you. Tribe by Amrapali is an attempt by a company to highlight the rich cultural heritage. What is the response from buyer? Are such concepts involving high level of human creativity scalable? This doubt always comes in our mind when high level of creativity is involved. Can we have a scalable business model?
Yes, you are right. People have received Tribe Amrapali very well because Tribe Amrapali is an aspirational brand. When I started Amrapali, my aim was to create unique pieces, one of a kind pieces, which I do not want it to repeat because my customers and clients were uh, people who are from the art world, people from fashion world, people from Bollywood, and most of the celebrities. They always wanted to buy a piece of Amrapali, which is which is unique and one of a kind. If they go to a function, they don't see anyone else wearing a similar piece. But there is a great demand of these pieces, and as I said, Tribe Amrapali is an aspirational brand, so we had to change our design language, and we also started making many more pieces of our very popular designs. So we can supply them to all our stores, which is more affordable, and also we can provide them in big quantities. And that is why Tribe Amrapali stores you see at Delhi International Airport or important malls like Palladium or Select City, Walk or Quest in Calcutta. So Indians, they love silver, they buy silver jewelry, and if they like some piece, they can buy offline stores. And Tribe Amrapali is basically an online store. So you can order online. So scalability comes there. The
Thank you.
response has been very good, and people can reach to our stores and can buy. And if they cannot afford or if they cannot get Amrapali piece, at least buy online. They can get Tribe piece. If you are in a class city or B class city or C class city, now online business is very good and there's a good
Sure.
software. Yeah. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
yes. Thank
Thanks
you.
for the clarity, sir. We now move on to Mr. Rahul Mehta. is a managing director of Silver Emporium, one of the very reputed silverware manufacturers out of India. Sir, your company is specializing in silverware. What does India and its rich cultural heritage bring to the silverware manufacturing? How is Rajasthan positioned in silverware manufacturing? What should be done to sustain the craftsmanship? And the last part of this question is organizing the unorganized. Can you share some thoughts on that?
Thank
Mr.
you,
Rahul
Shiva.
Mehta.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me in this panel. So, in India, India's rich culture, history, and diversity offers a great market for silver industry. Silver has been part of every household, right from birth of child to marriage, and it is deep rooted in Indian culture, which understands health issues or health advantages of using silver. Uh, in 2009, when we started looking out setting up a manufacturing facility, the only option which came up for us was Rajasthan because availability of skilled craftsmen in Rajasthan was plenty, and that was one of the key reasons why we set up our factory in Jaipur in 2009. Organizing the unorganized project is very close to our company, which we started a few years back. We identified that a lot of skilled craftsmen across India want to work as an entrepreneur, and the next generation didn't want it to come into the business because they don't want to do a job or they don't want to do a service in a manufacturing facility. So we started identifying talents across India. uh, we started providing them training, guidance, and business opportunity to these craftsmen, and all the necessary infrastructure for them to produce the right kind of pieces which are sellable. And over a period of time, this project has been worked wonders for us. And with this project, we also see consistent supply of handcrafted products into the Indian markets.
Sure. When it comes to silverware, Mr. Rahul, you have to share your experience. What happens to the demand when the price of silver goes up? You've just seen the silver prices going up to almost 71, 72. So, what happens to silverware demand when the prices go up? And what should we do to sustain demand and make it less sensitive to prices?
So we have seen when the demand goes up, demand goes, prices go up, demand goes down. Silver has seen a better demand when the prices are stabilized. So what we can do is we need good investment products, instruments like silver ETFs, where people can invest regularly in silver and which can be exchanged to buy products. So the demand is plenty. It's just that there are not many investment products available in the market where they can invest on a regular basis to do away with the substantial rise in silver prices.
Well, that's a very excellent thought. You have suggested a fully fungible silver ETF as a solution to stabilize demand. It's an excellent solution. Just for curiosity, is there like you have the gold accumulation scheme, or you have a gold deposit scheme with the jewelers, where I can deposit for 11 months some money and then take gold jewelry on the 12th month. Is there any scheme run by any of the Sweller jewelers on silver?
There are few
And the,
jewelers across India who use that, but people want flexibility. They want something which is traded on exchange. They can invest on regular basis. They're not looking at investing silver with the jewelers, maybe in a longer period, because they don't know when they want to liquidate that silver and make it into a product. One more thing
okay.
which we see in Indian markets is we need a very, very strong body which can promote silver, protect, educate, and grow the silver market, which we haven't seen in Indian markets. In spite of being one of the largest market for silver consumption, there's a lack of a body which can promote silver.
So there is no a central agency for generic promotion of silver. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, yes.
There's a need for that.
Yeah, like the World Gold Council did for gold, we don't see any body which focusing only on silver.
I'm sure, Mr. Michael is here to, and his team, entire team is here, especially the silver promotion services, who are they going to talk immediately after you. I'm sure they are listening to this, and the purpose of giving them an opportunity is to, make us aware of what are the services that they offer. Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Please be online. We will get back to you during the Q&A.
Yes.
I now invite Ms. Gloria Macaroni, Director Brand Development on the Silver Promotion Services, the Silver Institute. Just for curiosity, because we do not know much about this, what does Silver Promotion Services do? How does it support consumers and manufacturers of silver value-added products? How can an Indian manufacturer or an exporter avail the services of Silver Promotion Services? Over to you, Ms. Gloria.
Thank you. And we're very excited to be here today. I think Mr. Barlerin might be answering that question.
Okay.
I'll
Sure.
just check to see if he's on.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah, Mr. Michael Barlin. He's the Director of Silver Promotion Services. Please go ahead, sir.
Let me start by saying how pleased the Silver Promotion Service is to be part of this conference. And we're very excited about the potential of working together to grow the Indian silver jewelry market. Let me start with a little bit of background. My career started in the advertising agency business. I then became Senior VP Director of Marketing for the Zale Corporation in Dallas. After leaving Zale, I became Chief Executive Officer Americas for the World Gold Council for 15 years. And in that capacity, I work closely with the Silver Institute, so we have a good ongoing relationship. I believe it was in 2008 that the Silver Institute approached me and asked if I could create my new company, which was Michael Barlow & Associates, could create a marketing organization to promote the demand for silver jewelry. We did so, and later in 2008, at the launch event, we announced the following. The mission statement of the Silver Promotion Service is to enhance the image of and stimulate demand for silver jewelry in major international markets. The key introductions at that launch event, which was held in New York with a lot of the mining industry and retail community and some designers represented, was the introduction of the Silver Mark, which is used in all our communications by our brands and at retail to identify silver jewelry. Subsequent at that launch event, we introduced the mark and made it available to the 10 designers of distinction who were also introduced at that event. They became the first of the categories of manufacturers and brands that were part of our program. The subsequent categories became Silver Style Partners, Silver Mark Partners, and International Designers of Distinction. And our belief is that the Indian manufacturers would become part of the International Designers of Distinction. The core current programs of the Silver Promotion Service are annual research to measure U.S. retail jewelry results, margin performance, which we use in advertising and public relations, the negotiation of exceptional advertising co-op rates for members and leading trade media, the inclusion in SPS advertising and collateral materials, and inclusion on the Saver Silver website, which Mike DiRienzo referenced. Also participation in an annual New York PR event for publication editors, and the ability to have their product placed in a Hollywood showroom for use by stylists and international media. The SPS also supports its members at exhibiting at major international trade shows. Thank you for your interest in what we're doing, and we look forward to working with the appropriate parties to grow demand in India. I'll now turn the program to Gloria Macaroni, who is our Director of Brand Development for the Silver Promotion Service. Thank you.
Thank you. A quick question on the silver mark. It's a very interesting concept. How many are holders of the silver mark in the US currently? And are there anybody from India?
We do not, to the best of my knowledge, have anyone from India at this point in time, but we work with approximately 25, 30 brands each year. There's some variation on a year-by-year basis, and my guess would be several hundred retailers utilize the mark in their at point of sale. But as I say, it's something that we're still in the process of growing as we continue to expand the categories of participation.
Okay. Is the silver mark a country-wise approach, or is it like a global approach?
it's more international. We tried to design it in a way that it would not be country specific. In some markets, it's modified slightly by the individuals who use it to make it. The mark is not modified slightly. The terms in which it's put forward are modified slightly. We've done so for its use in China, in Mexico, and in Peru, and in selected European markets.
Do you feel the time is ripe for starting a silver mark initiative in India?
We would welcome the opportunity. I would obviously want to learn a little bit more about the structure of the Indian market. I'm somewhat familiar with it because of my time with the World Gold Council, and I know some of your trade associations from involvement in the international jewelry shows. But the answer, I would think it would be timely, but it should be used in conjunction with a program and not just as a standalone initiative would be my current thinking.
Excellent. If some of the Indian silver jewelry manufacturer or silverware manufacturers would like to go for this silver mark, where should they go and get more information, and whom should they touch base?
What I'd like to do is determine who our working partnership would be, in order to accomplish some of these things. I'm not certain it's GJEPC or another entity, but
Okay.
we'd like to work with whoever that individual or organization is to accomplish what you just asked.
We have several members of GJPC who are a part of this webinar today, including the two panelists who we have. So I'm sure, they are taking notes of it, and I'm sure India is in the right place at the right time, I feel. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you.
I thank you, and we're glad to be able to have participated.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gloria, any words from you on this subject?
Well, I would like to elaborate a bit more based on what Michael Barlerin just mentioned. The global component of the Silver Promotion Service is under the designation of International Designer of Distinction. During the initial years of the Silver Promotion Service program, the focus was primarily on U.S. designers. However, in recent years, that focus has evolved due to the increased international visibility of the Silver Promotion Program and the expressed interest of others to participate. The current international participants, include designers and brands from Mexico, England, and China. These designers are selected on the basis of criteria of not only unique designs, but also those that represent the utmost in quality, and each are an example of the country's best silver design jewelry offerings. The Silver Promotion Service, once identified, work with an international network of trade associations and industry experts to identify these candidates and designers for participation in the program. The international designers of distinction are provided with the opportunity to have their brand bio as well as key jewelry styles presented on the Sabre Silver website. And additionally, the international designers of distinction brands are supported with press releases and highlighted in communication to trade publications in their respective countries as well as globally. The Silver Promotion Service looks forward to welcoming jewelry designers and brands from India in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the next panelist, Ms. Jenny Chowdhury. You have seen her in the video. She's a young entrepreneur, and let's hear from her about her business. What was the reason for or motive for her to start the business, and how is that she has been so popular so fast? And she has adopted e-commerce, and a very, very good story to share. Over to you, Ms. Jenny Chowdhury. Are you there? Please unmute. Ms. Chowdhury, you are there?
Yes. Am I audible?
Please. Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Before I begin the story of my journey, I would like to mention how grateful I am to be a part of this distinguished panel. I feel very privileged to be sharing the same platform along with all the dignitaries present here. To begin with, Chokha, the name might strike curiosity chords. Allow me to share the meaning of it. So, Chokha in Mewari, which is the local dialect in Rajasthan, means the best, and Har, which means necklace, personifies jewelry. So, the prime motive for me to start Chokha was to connect modern Indian youth with our rich culture and tradition, craftsmanship through silver jewelry. Ours has been a land known for its glorious past and history, and with the course in time and rapidly evolving society, somehow, somewhere, we're getting detached to our originality. So, one of the vital parts of our tradition has been jewelry, and women carry them with pride. So, Chokha strives to bring that essence of power and pride back into every woman's wardrobe. Our jewelry is designed by keeping in mind using traditional aspects. Chokhar was born with an opportunity, and it is upholding the legacy by creating sterling silver jewelry that brings a bundle of joy to everyone who wears it. The whole idea of connecting the dots of modernity and culture were the main drivers for me to start Chokhar.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you just share about your e-commerce? Like, what made you go to e-commerce?
Uh, yes, sir. So my father has been in the jewelry business for the past 35 years now. The the brand is called Silver Art Palace, and with his experience and knowledge that have been passed on to me, that has been the major fuel to my journey. To be very honest, I've been like a student throughout the journey who's curious to learn and understand and implement. So this attitude has helped me carry that. With the advancement in digitalization and majority of business taking the online route, the Indian shopper is inclined more towards online platform for, if not but all their shopping needs. So our platform is designed to bridge the gap between the modern customer and traditional ornaments. So the e-commerce platform has really helped us in this endeavor. It becomes very easy for the users to navigate through the website and through the collection before they can make a decision.
So you saw some advantages of e-commerce or shifting to e-commerce during COVID times?
Definitely, sir. Definitely. We during COVID there was no movement, there were no walk-ins. So e-commerce really provided a jump to pushing silver jewelry to those parts of India where Rajasthani jewelry was not that popular. So for us to be able to promote that kind of a creativity and that kind of craftsmanship has the e-commerce platform has really been helpful for that.
Excellent. Reaching out to new customer group
Yes,
is where e-commerce really strikes a big
yes.
difference. Thank you so much. Thank you. We move on to Ms. Shimul Vyas, Senior Faculty, Lifestyle Accessory Design Department, National Institute of Design. Ma'am has been working with jewelry, gold and silver and diamond for over 20 years now. Ma'am, I'm very happy that you have been able to, though initial hiccups are there, you'll be able to join in. Um, Kindly, can you just share something about how leveraging craftsmanship is possible with technology? And how can companies support such initiative? And where do you see the role of government over all these years of experience with industry, academia, and other things? Can you please summarize what can we do to strengthen this kind of bonding when it comes to silver jewelry and silverware? Over to you, Ms. Shimul Vyas.
Yeah, good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, no. Before I start, I would like to thank the Vedanta Group and Hindustan Zinc for inviting me on this very exciting webinar on silver. And pardon me, I have some network issues, so I'm just keeping my video off. But would just like to say that I work quite closely with the precious jewelry segment, gold and studded and all of that. And I think silver is one thing that we have not really thought of so seriously. But today, sitting through the seminar, and I think the kind of potential Rajasthan holds, to leverage silver and move into the direction of value-added products. I think the potential is immense. So I think this webinar that has been organized comes, at absolutely an appropriate time. And moving to your question, as we all know, I think India, we are very fortunate to have, the cultural heritage of, high craftsmanship of jewelry since many centuries. And we also have very rich tribal population in different parts of the country. Look at Rajasthan, be it the entire northeast region and so on. And these tribal populations do represent a living, cultural heritage. Yeah, so we do have, a very, very diverse repertoire of, different types of jewelry which are handcrafted, different styles, techniques, and so on. So when it comes to leveraging craftsmanship, I think one aspect we can look at is that we already have this base of, immense inspiration that is our heritage. And I think it would be a good idea to have a marriage of craftsmanship with technology, because I think in modern times, technology is one thing that we cannot, neglect or avoid. So we should bring in technology with craftsmanship in a way that they complement each other, and that could truly help elevate the silver jewelry to the next level. So when I say technology, it could mean manufacturing technology, and in today's times, as Ms. Jenny was talking about, it could be digital technology for e-commerce and so on. And I think technology in terms of mechanized tools and techniques is one thing that we could look at, where we use high technology for processing raw materials, and we take away drudgery of making from the artisans, and we make sure that the quality of the input of raw materials is of a high order, and therefore the output will also be of superior quality. And it was very encouraging at the beginning to hear Professor Suhas talk about 3D printing and laser and other things that have come in. And I don't see any reason why this kind of technology for manufacturing we could not be considering. Coming to the digital technology that we are talking about, I think here the application would be more in the space of retail and e-commerce, and we could use e-commerce and the digital technology for widening the reach and reaching out to a larger consumer base. Technology could be used for authenticity, transparency, proving the provenance of the silver product, the journey of the silver, right from the mines to the product landing in the hands of the consumer. And the technology is here that other industries are talking about, like gold and World Gold Council and others, is about blockchain and DNA tagging and all of that. So we could bring in these technologies along with, say, data analytics and mixed reality and so on. And we need to understand that today's consumers do want, stories and associations with jewelry product that signifies, the symbology and all of that. And taking these stories to the consumers is again where, the digital platform, various social media platforms can be used to our advantage. And I think finally, the e-platform could also become a very powerful tool to connect, the makers and the artisans and the companies to the end consumer. So I think craftsmanship and technology complementing each other could be the way forward. Yeah. And in terms of what companies could do in such an initiative, I believe that if you look at silver jewelry in India, it is, very dominant as the side of ethnic jewelry, the traditional tribal jewelry. The other category of silver jewelry is where, silver, the design of gold jewelry are made into silver, and it's gold plated, and therefore, silver's identity gets completely lost. I think what companies can do is have a lot of faith and confidence in silver as a material. We need to understand that it's a white colored metal, and globally, more than yellow colored metal. Internationally, the preference towards white colored metal is much more. So we do need to explore this unexplored aspect of silver. We need to, bring out the inherent beauty of the material, the way it is, and we need to, develop more contemporary, lightweight designs, which are in tandem with modern lifestyle, in the way young Indians today dress, and they are moving from one role to the other, and so on. I think this whole space of contemporary, well-made silver jewelry is, companies start in. I think it's phenomenal price of gold. And when we talk of young Indians, the millennials or the Gen Z, I think silver can be absolutely a great destination for these young Indians to be buying products and investing in. Yes, and if I'm to address your last question in terms of what could be the role of government, it's very encouraging to see, Honorable Chief Minister, respected Shri Amitabh Kanji, everybody committing, to this cause of making Rajasthan the destination for silver and silver value-added products. I think the challenge that we are facing in India is that we do have a shrinking artisanal base. So we may be, boasting about this whole craftsmanship and other things, but we also realize that not the younger generations of artisans do not want to become artisans again. And this could create a threat to the continuity of, the whole craft of silversmithing. Yeah. So what government can do is that we do need to expand the crafted. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Fine, sorry. So I think the government can play two very, very important role. One is to expand, the whole artisan base in Rajasthan, and where the artisans are specializing into silver-related value-added products. And here we do need to build a new generation of artisans and designers, makers, are professionally trained and qualified. I think with our traditional artisans, what happens is they've learned on the job, they've learned in the informal sector. So there isn't really, social visibility and respect for them. And that is something the younger generation of artisans are going to demand. So here, why can't we think of, certain training programs which gives specialized qualifications to the candidates who have gone through the program? So that is one aspect. And my second submission to the government of Rajasthan would be to set up a center of excellence or a state-of-the-art institute of, silversmithing, which focuses on handcrafted and industrially produced or manufactured silverware and jewelry. And, and then we could leverage India's unmatched potential in this segment by introducing and, providing to the world absolutely, international class products. So I would, I would reiterate the need to expand the artisans base and the human resource base, and to set up a state-of-the-art institute focusing on silversmithing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was quite exhaustive. You touched upon very, very valid points. What manufacturers need to do and what the government needs to do. And I think you have given a lot of points for the industries to think and get back to you. And I'm sure NID as an institution has always been ready to support the sector. So you would certainly look at it in supporting. Thank you so much. We move on to the last speaker. We don't have much time. We move on to the last speaker, Mr. Dushyant Agarwal, but he's going to talk about a very important subject. He's a partner at Cashflow. They provide microfinance, and silver jewelry and manufacturing is mostly artisan driven, small industries, and there's a huge need for finance, affordable finance, and accessible to small and medium people. So I would like to invite Mr. Dushyant Agarwal to share what has been his experience, especially with small and medium enterprises from silver sector. Over to you, Mr. Dushyant.
Sure. Thanks so much. Really glad to be a part of this forum, and part of this esteemed panel. Just to give a little bit of background. So, Cashflow is basically a financial services technology company. We are trying to digitize financing, trying to make financing, easily available and affordable for the, the large MSME sector of the country. And of course, silver forms a very important part of it. And, it's one of the industry where the proportion of MSMEs is really high. on the whole, if I talk about, right, just the availability of funding, and the access of funding to the entire MSME sector has been severely constrained. And it's been a variety of factors. Of course, traditionally it was not access to data. A lot of things were happening informally. And there were not proper sort of books of accounts and set of data against which underwriting can be done. I think two important aspects are really helping, and this is a continuously evolving scenario that we are seeing. One is that, of course, government is rolling out a lot of initiatives in digitizing the entire, economy and trade, right? We saw GST being rolled out. We are now seeing e-invoicing being rolled out, from 1st October. Of course, right now it is mostly for companies which are turnover of more than 500 crore. But gradually, this will be made applicable to all the companies, right? You have e-way bills, etc. Secondly, there are a lot of alternate underwriting models which are now available, which rely not only on traditional data but also on the cash flow of the companies, right? What are the receivables? What are their payables? And we specifically are trying to sort of play more in that area where supply chain finance is a very important tool that we have picked up, and we are trying to really sort of penetrate it across the length and breadth of the country, where you are ideally doing a trade, party A trading to party B, and generally in any B2B trade you would expect that there is a credit period typically involved, right? And it's a fairly risk-free sort of a transaction because there's a future promise against the payment which is going to happen. And just financing this entire cycle itself can lead to a lot of growth opportunities for the companies, right? And that's where as cash flow, we as a company are playing an active role, in trying to make financing available to small and medium enterprises. We have started with essentially SMEs which are associated with larger enterprises. For example, Hindustan Zinc and Vedanta are actually taking a lot of steps in supporting their vendor partners and their customer partners who are MSMEs, and they want to ensure that they get access to affordable financing. And we are proud to be working with them on that initiative and providing financing. So that's really the state that is there right now. There's of course a long way to go, and we are trying to sort of go forward on that journey.
Thank you so much. There is been so much of new insight. We started off with Rajiv Arora ji, talking about the scope for growing this market, and we had an excellent session of ideas. And there is so much scope for innovation, digitization, digital gold, and there are new initiatives like cash flow, on accessing finance. Silver mark is something which we need to really think about to take our sector global in terms of because we have everything here, only now it has to become more global. So this has been a very enriching conversation so far. Unfortunately, we are having constraint of time to accommodate questions. We have chat box, and all the people who are there that they would be very happy to answer your question. With these words, I conclude this session. Thank you so much for all the participants and the panelists for their valuable inputs. Thank you very much.